we think that all music starts with a social context, but it's very different in how, there's a big difference in how punk uses social context than pop. What do you think is actually the social context of noise, at least through your eyes?
Right, okay. It's different. Punk has a tendency to be extremely political. That was sort of part of the purpose of the movement. Noise is less of a movement, even though it's becoming something more of a global community. But it's always been more about the individual, because if you think of noise, it doesn't mean anything. Essentially, the whole thing about noise, about experimental music, is that it's experimental. There's no genre tropes. So it's not, yeah, it's political and you dress like this and it sounds like this and these are the instruments you use. It's very individual to each person. So depending on the concepts of that person's project, their social context is completely different, because their reasons for making the project or what they're talking about, you know, everyone is saying something very different. So it's less of a unified social message.
What do you think when you realize that in countries like Chile or Indonesia there's like this new noise movement? How do you feel about that, and what do you think when you hear other things?
I mean, it's really exciting. I think it's probably not new. I think that people have been making this kind of music all over the world since like the 80s, but I think that maybe there's more attention now to noise as a whole, like everywhere. In New York and in US and in Europe, and now finally the communications are more open, so that you can find out about things more easily.
Have they mentioned to you, like there's a documentary called Noise in Indonesia?
No, I never. Oh, actually, yeah. You know, my friends are in this band Ora ISO, and they just went over to Indonesia, and they came back and told me like I saw like pictures from their tour, and it seemed like amazing that they have these things. I forget what they call them, like noise attacks, and they just go out into like some gorgeous mountain where there's no one around and bring a generator and a PA and blast noise into the hills, and it's really cool. Yeah, I would love to go there.
So according to your experience and the contemporary artists you have been hearing around the world and your friends and everything, what do you think is the direction noise music is taking? Do you feel that it's changing or evolving?
Well, first I think it's important to note that I'm not a spokesperson for noise, because it's a movement that it existed way before me. It's, you know, there's like a lot of people who have been doing it for just as long and longer as I have, and who have had crazy influence in that realm. But that being said, it seems like around 2005 or 2006 there was a big like bubble, at least in New York City, but it's like, and in the US, but I think kind of in Europe and stuff too, where there was a lot more bands, there were noise festivals, there was a lot of labels, everyone was trading tapes, and there was a lot of new people getting interested. And then what happened is at some point the bubble burst and there was no more fests, a lot of the record stores shut down, a lot of the people that were new that got interested stopped making it and went on to do techno or something else. And now I sense the bubble growing again. So, and there's still people that were left over from the last one who are still, you know, staying strong. And there's a lot of new people, and you hear about more labels and, you know, like more festivals that are not exclusively for noise, but including noise music. I think that the future is like, for noise that I see, is that it's becoming much more integrated with other types of music and with other movements. Like it seems that, you know, you can go to a show that's like a punk band, a noise band, and then like it ends with like a techno project or something. And I think it's kind of important, because what it does is it turns it from genre worship into people with similar ideals who are acting active in making their music and their art, and everyone is influencing each other, making art for each other's records, taking photographs of each other's bands, and once that happens, it becomes a generational thing. And if it's a global generational thing, then it's a movement, and then it can have actual impact, you know? And so it's different. It's instead of just, you know, ordering tapes on the internet and you never meet this person and you play a noise show and there's maybe 3 people there that you play to all the time. Now it seems like it's becoming more of a community. Yeah. Which usually means growth.
Do you relate noise music with perception and the senses?
Yeah. I think noise is something that the whole purpose is to deconstruct sound. So when you hear a noise record or you see a noise band play live, you don't hear drums, guitar, bass. It strips away that comfort, and so your perception becomes about the individual sounds and how you're perceiving them, how they make you feel, if you can feel them in your body. And so it becomes about the moment of impact, about the empathy of the sound, less about the riff or, you know, is it catchy? Do I like it because of the, you know, can I play this at a party? It's very much like, it strips away all of that possibility for it to become pop or even folk in that way, you know. Yeah, it becomes in the same way that when you see a photograph or a painting, that's abstract or something. You don't have these qualifiers, these reference points. So you have to actually think about your just intrinsic experience, you know.
What's your relationship with sound?
Complicated. I have been the crazy person taking my recorder out of my backpack in the middle of a street somewhere because I hear a sound that strikes me that I really like and everyone is looking at me. I need it to wake up. I need it to go to sleep. It's a bit of an obsession, I guess.
Yeah, guys, John Cage said something that was really interesting. He said, silence right now is traffic.
Yeah. And he made that piece. That's 5 minutes of silence. Yeah. Actually, I was talking with someone the other day about using the sounds that are happening all around us, and the one performance that I would love to do would be just to have the sounds of a room and then somehow be able to cancel them all out at one point so that everyone was realizing, because when you're in a room and it's quiet, it's not quiet. There's all of these sounds happening all around you and they become part of your inner dialogue. They become part of your thoughts and you don't even realize they're there until they're gone. But unfortunately, there's no way to suddenly make everyone in a room deaf, so. Or maybe it would be morally a poor choice.
I don't know, maybe in a close future,
yeah.
Some kind of thing.
Temporary,
Yeah.
not permanent, yeah.
How do you choose your sounds when you write a song or compose?
Yeah, so it sucks because I get ideas for sound and I compose something and then I have to find those sounds and it can be really difficult, but usually I collect a lot of field recordings and then usually if I have something that's close, approximate, I can take it and manipulate it through looping, through pedals, through changing the waveforms and all these kinds of tactics to be the sound that I heard in my head, that I thought of, you know. It's never exact, but
it's close enough.
It's close, yeah. I like to use synths and things like this, but then change them so they sound not recognizable as oh, that's an analog synth, that's this, that's that. I use voice a lot as sound source and edit it and affect it until it sounds like a synth or guitar, or like I don't like drum machines. I use only the sound of taking a brick and throwing it against a concrete floor, or taking a sheet of metal or construction and take one sound and isolate it, EQ it, and then make it into a rhythm. Like, you know, I prefer like using sound, like molding it like a collage or like a sculpture.
What impressions you want to generate in your audience?
People, maybe it's a little different in South America, but in the US, people are so apathetic. You see shows all the time, it's something normal, and sometimes you get, like, you go to a punk show or a noise show, and someone has put so much thought and so much effort and made something really incredible, and people like it, but all they can do is kind of sit around and try to look cool. I guess the only requirement that I would have, that I would want, like, of an impression to make, is to make someone feel something real. To make someone have contact with their primal self. The part of you that is not overanalyzed. Your gut reaction, your instincts, you know. When you hear it, whatever you feel is valid, and that's pure, and that's what I want to connect people with, this part of themselves. So it's not that there's any right way to feel or to perceive it, but that they feel something, because that's hard to make people do now. I think it's getting harder and harder.
What are your influences out of noise and the artistic media? I mean, because like
outside
art,
of?
Yeah, outside of the art world, and what are your influences, and music especially?
Okay. What influences me that's not noise?
Yeah,
and
it's not noise, or
and not art?
Not art in the way of like the galleries or this painter.
Yeah.
I mean that kind of things.
No. I like people who inspire me are like Nina Simone, someone who was so controlled by others, but found a way to break out, and she had a really, really, really strong political vision. And even though it made her less popular for record sales and things like this, she didn't care. She said, I don't, like, this is my vision and I'm gonna stand up for it. That's really inspiring to me, people like Nina Simone. I'm inspired, I take inspiration from philosophy a lot, and from mostly, honestly, conversations with intelligent people. You know, it's like when I don't do small talk very well. If I have a friend, it's because there's someone that I can sit down and actually discuss the things that keep me awake at night, and the things I see around me that upset me, the things that, you know, piss me off, the things that make anger is a huge inspiration. Feelings of passion for something, you know, and reading books and experiencing life and pain and pushing the body to a point where you feel in like a trance, you know. These are all probably more influential than other bands, because no one wants to sound like another band. You can hear something that's amazing, but it's because it's its own thing, you know. It's because it's not derivative of something else. It's unique to itself, and it's, you know, you don't want to sound like other bands. You gain inspiration from the life that you live.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was great.
Thanks.
Really good.